What would a young wife do if she is left by her husband alone in a hotel for a week? Hello, and welcome back to the story. Today we will be making a recap on a 2003 movie titled Lost in Translation. Warning, there will be some spoilers ahead, so watch at your own risk and enjoy. The story begins with Bob, a 55-year-old actor who seems to be in a midlife crisis. He is in Tokyo for a commercial shoot of a Japanese whiskey brand. He arrives at the hotel where he is greeted by the Japanese crew he will be working with later. A hotel staff hands him a fax message from his wife, saying he missed their son's birthday. Bob looks weary as he rides the elevator and sits on his bed silently. He later goes to the hotel bar to drink alone. Two guys recognize him and say they loved his movies before. Bob seems not comfortable talking about his old career, so he leaves. He stares blankly while lying in bed at 4 a.m. when a fax comes in. It is another message from his wife updating him about the shelf she made for him. In the other room, we see a 25-year-old girl named Charlotte who sits by the window because she couldn't sleep. In the morning, her husband John leaves early for work. Bob is at the shooting for his commercial on a Japanese whiskey brand. He's having problem understanding the Japanese director and the translator. He is lost in translation. Meanwhile, Charlotte rides a train and visits a shrine where she sees monks who are chanting. She later calls her mom, frustrated because she thought coming to Japan would excite her, but she felt nothing. Her husband is also starting to change, like she doesn't know him anymore. Her mother seems to not care that much and is busy with other things. Charlotte later hangs up and cries. She spends her whole day in the hotel alone and bored. She later accidentally hit her feet on the table. While on the set, Bob's agent calls and tells him that his stay will be extended because he is invited to a talk show. The photo shoot starts and Bob is still having problem with understanding the Japanese crews. That night, Bob goes to the hotel bar and drinks alone. Charlotte is on the other table with her husband and his friends. She keeps on staring at Bob smiling, and he smiles back. A while later, she asks the waiter to send a glass of whiskey to Bob. He drinks it and thanks her. The next day, Charlotte and John bump into Kelly, a Hollywood actress that her husband has worked with before. They have fun talking, which makes Charlotte feel left out. Kelly invites them for a drink sometime, and then she leaves. One night, Charlotte cannot sleep, so she decides to go to the hotel bar. She sits beside Bob and asks him what is he doing in Japan. He says he is taking a break from his wife and is being paid $2 million to endorse a whiskey. Bob then asks her, and she says she just came along with her husband who is a photographer. Charlotte is married for 2 years while Bob for 25 years. We could see that both are not happy with their lives. Next evening, the couple is having a drink with Kelly. Kelly talks a lot with John, and Charlotte feels left out again. She gets bored, and when she sees Bob on the next table, she approaches him. They have a fun quick chat, and then she leaves for her room. Next morning, John has to leave for a couple of days. He tells Charlotte that she does not need to stay in the hotel, but she insists that she will just be staying. He kisses her and then leaves. That night, she goes swimming and later, she bumps into Bob in the locker room. She will be going out with her friends later, so she invites Bob to come, and he accepts it. Bob later opens a package from his wife, asking him what color he wants for his shelf. A while later, Bob comes into Charlotte's room. He changes clothes and she helps him suit up. Then they later leave. At the bar, she introduces Bob to her friends. One of her friends gets into an argument with the manager, and they run away as the manager shoots them with a pellet gun. They ride a cab away and go to a different bar. Bob sings for them and they cheer. Charlotte later sings and stares seductively at Bob. Bob sings again, and this time, the two of them stare with each other. Bob later carries Charlotte, who is drunk, to her room. He puts on her blanket and then leaves. He then calls his wife and shares his experience that night, meeting different people at the bar. She seems not to care, and she is busy tending with their daughter. The next day, Bob and Charlotte dines at a Japanese restaurant, and she is having fun being around him. She shows him her toe that she accidentally banged up the other day. She thought that Bob was only joking about taking her to the hospital, but he actually did. At the hospital, she has her foot x-rayed, and when she goes out, Bob gives her a stuffed toy. That night, the two go out again with their friends, but the guys are busy watching the naked dancers, so they leave. They have fun running on the busy streets of Tokyo on their way to the hotel. Later, Charlotte could not sleep, so she gets up and finds a letter from Bob, asking if she is awake. She goes to his room where they drink while watching TV. A while later, they lie in bed talking. Charlotte tells him how she feels stuck and does not know what to do with her life because she is not good at anything. Bob tells her she'll figure it out. She then asks if marriage gets easier. He says that it used to be fun at first, but then gets complicated and stale when they start to have kids. The next day, Charlotte rides a train and travels to Kyoto. Meanwhile, Bob appears in a ludicrous talk show that he seems not to enjoy. He later watches the show on TV and gets disappointed seeing how he turned into a ridiculous celebrity. He goes to the bar and drinks alone. The jazz singer sits next to him, and next morning, we find out that they had an affair last night. Charlotte later knocks, and she finds out that he is with a woman. She leaves disappointed. They later have a lunch together, and Charlotte talks about the woman he is with last night, and she looks upset. Bob is just silent. That night, Charlotte wakes up to a fire alarm. Outside, Bob approaches her and says he will be leaving tomorrow. She says she will miss him. They then go to the hotel bar one last time. Bob says he does not want to leave, and Charlotte tells him to stay with her. He does not know what to answer, and they just stare at each other. At the elevator, they awkwardly kiss goodnight. Before leaving the hotel, Bob calls Charlotte and asks for his jacket. It seems that they actually spent the night together, because Bob was still wearing that jacket in the elevator. Charlotte later approaches Bob, gives him his jacket, and bids farewell. Bob is sad as he watches her leave. While in the car, he sees Charlotte, and he rushes to her. He embraces her and whispers something, and Charlotte says okay. They then kiss passionately and say goodbye. This time, both of them leave each other happy and smiling. Did you like our movie recap? Please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. To be updated for new movie recaps, hit the notification bell.